Hi, you've tuned in to Radio Northern Beaches, your Listen Local station, right here on the Northern Beaches of Sydney. You can find us on your radio dial at 88.7 and 90.3 FM. Can't get to a radio? No worries. You can always stream our program live from anywhere in the world at rnb.org.au. And for listening on your own schedule, our podcasts are available globally at rnbpodcast.com.au. So be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Now, here is our latest podcast.
Welcome to Miscellanea, a show about everything and nothing all at once. Before we kick off the show, a quick reminder, this show is all about entertainment and the views expressed are solely those of the individuals involved. Remember to check the facts and seek professional advice when needed. If our discussions affect you, please reach out for support. Now let's go. Hello, you're listening to the Miscellanea Variety Show, a show about everything and nothing all at once. I'm your host, Maria Mai, coming to you from Radio Northern Beaches on your FM dial 88.7 or 90.3 and streaming worldwide on rnb.org.au. Want to stay connected after the show? Just follow me on Instagram and Facebook. You can find me at miscellanea.varietyshow or you can drop me an email at miscellaneavarietyshow@gmail.com. Well, hello, I'm Maria Mai and I'm delighted to be speaking with Suzanne John from the Northern Beaches Midwifery. And today we're talking about the fourth trimester. So welcome to the show, Suzanne.
Thank you for having me.
Before we get into the fourth trimester, what brought you to midwifery? What were the circumstances?
Well, from school, I actually went straight into nursing, and then I was working as a nurse, and then thought to myself I could do a little bit more study, and decided to work with well people, but still in the hospital environment, which led me into midwifery. So I'm trained to be a midwife. Sometimes I think to myself, back then, did I really know why I was going into midwifery? But it's the best move I made, and I absolutely love my job. It was something that I thought, I'm really enjoying this, and I just kept going from there.
It feels like you had a calling.
Yes, it does. There was a few of the girls when we qualified as nurses that said, oh, you know what, I think we'll just keep on training. Some went into A&E courses, some went on to ICU. And I decided to do midwifery. But even at the actual interview, I remember them saying to me, do you really know why you want to be a midwife? And at that point I thought, do I know why I want to be a midwife? But they still said, okay, well, we'll put you on the course. And I just absolutely loved it.
What did you love about it?
What I loved was the women. They were well. I loved the learning about how a baby grows, develops, how a woman's body actually maintains that pregnancy. And it was just amazing to me. And watching those babies come out, taking their first breath, that was the bit that really, really I loved. And that's where I have been on birthing unit, or was on birthing unit, probably for the majority of my midwifery time.
Once you did your training as a midwife, then you were working for a hospital at the time?
I trained in the UK, in the north of England, and believe it or not, at the time when I qualified, there was very few jobs. So I moved down to Oxford, which is in the south, and I was there for 17 years, going through postnatal, antenatal, high risk, special care. But the majority of my time was on the labour ward, probably 17 years in and out of labour ward, and just doing that very, very, very busy high risk unit.
Wow. Do you know how many babies you've delivered? Do you keep a score?
I honestly wish that I had literally kept the score. I have no idea.
It's got to be thousands.
On some nights you'd do 4 deliveries.
Wow.
It was such a busy unit, 7,500 deliveries a year.
I think it's a beautiful thing to do, to be in a happy occasion and to be at that side of the equation of life.
I would like to say every single birth is a happy occasion. Some aren't. There'll be listeners here that will know that. And the joy you get, sometimes it's not the word joy, but the job satisfaction you get from handling a difficult situation well, and that woman or the whole family saying, thank you, we got through it. And I felt really well supported is something, the job satisfaction really, if you handle a bad situation well, that can give you amazing job satisfaction.
And how lucky are those people to have had you? Because in so many of those situations, if you don't have that person to walk you through that properly or in a compassionate, empathetic way, you can have even more trauma down the road. So it's so important to have that right support from the beginning.
I completely agree, and that's with my experience. You know that some situations you could have handled better, and that's called reflective practice. And hopefully I continue to do that.
So 17 years as a midwife in the UK, and you then came to Australia?
Came to Australia, said to my husband one day, the children were young, I think they were 4 and 5. I said, I've seen an advert in the Midwives magazine for midwives desperately needed in Australia. Should we go?
What a question. It's not like, oh, let's just pop over the road and move interstate like you did before to Oxford, but all the way to down under.
Absolutely. And he said, yeah, if you want to, let's...
What was he doing? How could he uproot himself with his job?
Well, I think he was kind of just amusing me at the time.
Oh.
He said, let's look into it, because there was an expo on in London. So he came with me. I had 3 interviews at the expo in London. I got all 3 jobs, which really confused me. We honestly thought in our naivety that coming to Australia, I would be able to work as a midwife. We would have the same standard of living. And I think he thought he'd take the time and play golf every other day. So
what was reality? What happened?
Reality was that we actually came over, did what we would call a recce, and realised that this is a really expensive place to live and that he couldn't play golf every other day and we would both need to work. But still, we thought we will try it for 2 years.
And you've come to Northern Beaches. How lucky were you to land here?
Absolutely. Initially when we came over, my husband then did another visit to find the schools. We ended up at Arden in Beecroft, which was a beautiful school for the children because we didn't have to split them up, and they were in the same school. And then we lived in West Pennant Hills. And then once they were through school, we moved to the beaches, which is where I really wanted to be.
So as a midwife coming to Australia, what were the differences that you've seen between the UK and Australia in the way they deliver babies?
Delivery is the same. The difference I've found is the models of care. So we don't have in the UK the same amount of private hospitals. So people who go private, there is rooms in the NHS, in the hospitals for women to pay to have private care, or there's the Portland in London. So that's where the Beckhams go or the royal family. But generally, the majority of women will deliver in the NHS in midwifery care.
Right.
So it's very much dominated by midwives in the UK.
Now we are going to explore the 4th trimester. Over to you, Suzanne. What is the 4th trimester?
The 4th trimester is a time from the birth of the baby to 12 weeks. Now, just about every mother, when they get pregnant, once they're through the 1st trimester, which again can be quite a challenge with nausea and tiredness and your changing body, and then the 2nd trimester you're feeling a little bit better and you're starting to really think about the birth and what you've been told is very, very important. And preparing for the birth, you might do calm birth, hypnobirth classes. You might decide to yourself, I'm going to go for an elective caesarean section. Whatever you want to do, you're preparing for the birth of that baby. And a lot of time there's very little thought that goes into what happens when the baby is born. There's very little talk about it as well, how challenging it can be. So there are mums that will just go, well, I've got the baby and I've got my body and I've got my boobs and they all should just fit together and I'll just carry on.
What you've just explained is that we see the birth as the end of the process, or in actual fact, it's the beginning.
Absolutely. So that birth on a very long labour is essentially still a day. It can be very quick. So the average for a first baby is around about 12 hours, and then the second ones can be a lot quicker. But it's a day, and you are so well supported. If you're starting to do your early labour at home, you might have got a doula, you might have a very supportive family that comes with you, you might have a supportive partner. Wherever you are, you might decide to have a home birth, you call your midwife, you call the hospital, you've got advice from every single angle.
Sometimes too much advice,
Sometimes
that you're
far too-
overwhelmed and you're getting, conflicting advice.
You certainly are, but essentially there is support there for you. And it's good support if you really think, okay, now this is the day, I'm going to go into my zone, this is what I've planned to do. And it's a day where you know and you've prepared for it so well. And then the baby's here. Then what? So when the baby is first born, they'll go into a little hibernation mode for the first 24 hours. And a lot of women will say, oh, this isn't that bad, I've given birth to a really good baby. And then they wake up. And they want to really encourage your milk to come in. They've started to say, right, I'm out now, and I'm going to cluster feed, and I'm going to encourage your milk to come in. And some mums are great with that, some are absolutely exhausted, some have breastfed before and they know how to do it, some haven't. And it's a difficult time. The majority of women who will go into hospital or have their baby will want to breastfeed. A lot of mothers will want to breastfeed, and a lot will start off breastfeeding. But it is a challenging time for an awful lot of mothers to actually breastfeed their baby. Even though they know it is the best for their baby, it is a very demanding time.
It's extraordinary that it is as difficult, more difficult than what anyone would imagine. It seems to be an intuitive or something natural, but it's not. It's more difficult than one would think. Why is that?
Well, I completely agree with you. So my analogy for that is walking. We all had to learn to walk, and there was quite a few stumbles along the way. And you were supported, so people held your hands and they allowed you to learn to walk. And eventually you got it. We all learn to walk and we get there. I think if you're well supported, then it's possible. It really is possible for the majority of women. Not all women. There are a small percentage of women that cannot breastfeed.
So in the fourth trimester,
We're talking about natural newborn behaviour, which can be very confusing. Very confusing.
so talk us through some of those behaviours then.
So the first behaviour is what I actually said to you, was they go into hibernation for about 24 hours, sometimes a little bit longer. So they will go into this very calm mode where they will feed and they'll go back to sleep again.
Oh, this is the calm before the storm.
Calm before the storm, absolutely. And then they will start to wake up at that 24, 48 hour mark, and they want to be fed. Now, the natural thing that's actually also in breast milk, and it's in the first milk, the colostrum, is a natural laxative, very high in calories. So they're trying to get the meconium out, they're trying to get that first poo out, that sticky tar, and they're trying to break down these high red blood cells that they have inside you for their oxygen, to transport the oxygen around that body. Now, if those aren't broken down efficiently and effectively, they can become jaundice. And we don't want a jaundice baby because that will make them sleepy again. So we want the baby to wake up and we want them to feed and we want them to get rid of the meconium, and we want them to start coming to earthside life. But still, they actually don't realise that they've been born, so they just want to get as close to mum as possible. They want to smell her, they want to hear the heartbeat, they want the gentle rocking sound, because that's what they've had inside. They felt warm and secure, and they've heard that heartbeat, and then how close can I get to mum? They can get to mum is on her chest by her breast. So she essentially then becomes the placenta and umbilical cord, because that's where baby wants to be.
In hospitals, they used to have the room where the babies were left overnight or when they weren't with mum. What's the practice these days?
The World Health Organization and every bit of research for bonding, for milk, for baby is rooming with mum, stay with mum as much as we possibly can. There's some events where it's just not possible if mum is sick or something happens then, but staying with mum is the pinnacle.
And
of
hasn't that
health.
changed from years gone by?
It certainly
where
has.
The safest or the best was to be in the baby room. I don't know what it's called, but all the babies were in the same room and looked after by the nurse, and the mum was only called when it was time for feeding.
Absolutely. Well, that will only happen now if baby's on special care.
So we're walking through the trimester. What happens next?
The next thing is that if baby's born and mum goes, you know what, I think I can go home. I've had quite a good birth and baby seems very, very calm and settled. I'll go home the next day. When they are discharged from, if they've had a hospital birth, then midwifery in the home will arrange to see them, and it's usually the following day.
They'll
see them, especially for a first-time mum, to make sure they are okay, and also to remember that we're also monitoring the baby's jaundice and the feeding. So if that's all going well, then we'll see them on day 5, and if the baby is then gaining weight or not lost below 10%, then they are discharged but still responsible for that mother, or the mother can request them to come and see or get advice up to day 14. And then from there it's the GP or Child and Family Health. The midwifery in the home that is through New South Wales Health will generally do 2 visits, and then they can ask for assistance up to 2 weeks following birth, and then in that time Child and Family Health will have also contacted the mother.
Right, because I remember the nurse did come to my house twice, and then I was referred to the baby clinic.
Yeah, the Child and Family Health now.
You went there, I think, every week from my memory, and that's where I met other mothers that had babies at the same time that I did, and we formed a mothers group.
Yes, absolutely. The Child and Family Health will try and put each mother into a mothers group, and they try and meet up around about the 6-week mark. They'll form a mothers group of women that have delivered around about the same time. You're hoping that you will have a bond with somebody there. The other issue with that is the ones that are doing well, they're more than happy to actually get out in the car and go to the Child and Family Health Clinic. But if they are struggling, then that can seem an overwhelming task to get out of the house and go to the Child and Family Health Clinic. They might have been up all night. They might just generally just all too much for them. And then that's when the isolation starts to happen. So even though that is available to them, they have to get there. The other thing is, if they're very, very tired, some mothers just say, I don't feel safe to get in the car. The husband might have gone back to work. We're all trying to make ends meet at the moment. So for a husband or a partner, or the mother might actually be on her own and not be able to get in the car to go to that Child and Family Health Clinic, to have that social interaction or to ask the questions.
So what happens in that case then?
There are services out there. So yes, you can ring the Child and Family Health for advice, but you can imagine how much under pressure they are. There's a lot of women needing help. So in that very demanding time, I think we do lack support. I had no idea when I was working in birthing unit how much support we lacked in that postnatal period. So whether it's through the public system, where they will look after the mother or be responsible for the mother up to 2 weeks post-birth, or the private system, where they will look after the mother from birth, then they'll be discharged from hospital a little bit longer, either 4 nights or 5 nights in hospital. Then they'll be able to ring obstetric rooms, the private rooms, but then they get their postnatal check at 6 weeks. There are obstetricians now moving towards more support in that 6-week period, but there is a gap where women are struggling, especially with the breastfeeding.
And the sleeping, I would imagine.
And the sleeping and understanding what normal newborn behaviour is.
And not feeling like a failure because all the emotions are happening, right? All the hormones and emotional upheaval is happening.
It is a really confusing time for some mums. And when that baby starts to wake up and her milk's coming in and the hormones are all over the place, that can be quite a challenging time mentally for her as well. So the support is something that you really, really need at home.
So what support is there? Let's talk about that.
The support is, I've explained what the hospital support is and the child and family health. There is lactation consultants out there. There are postnatal doulas out there who will come in. There is a volunteer service as well called Mums for Mums. And it's maybe retired ladies who will come in once a week and actually support that mum. I've referred some of my ladies to there.
So if you don't have your mother close by,
absolutely,
or your mother-in-law or any of that sort of older woman that's gone through it experience, that sounds like a great idea.
And some of these might be ex-teachers or social workers or child and family health, but they are trained volunteers. They don't come in to do your housework or
No.
But they might sit and talk to you or play with the other child while you're breastfeeding. But it's something where you can say, I've got somebody coming in to actually talk to me, because I will look after women for 6 weeks and do home visits and do telehealth, but then I finish. And that can be something where, okay, so what now? What now? And it could be quite an isolating time as well. So that support is great. Mums for mums, but you do need to get a referral, or you can actually refer yourself. So everything is on an individualised basis.
As we were talking before, back in the day and in some cultures, the soon-to-be mother is helped by her extended family, her own mother or her mother-in-law or her sisters, and they might spend a couple of weeks before the birth and then post the birth for the first month or so until the new mother has recovered from the birth and then feels confident in being able to look after her baby by herself and know what to do with the breastfeeding or the bottle feeding, really, because that's a process as well, any feeding, and also the sleeping. But I feel that we've lost that art of support.
We were never meant to have these babies in an isolated environment. It is such a demanding time. That newborn behaviour within that first 6 to 8 weeks is a very demanding time. And I certainly know when we get to that 6-week mark, if we've had quite a demanding time, I can see my ladies, they are turning the corner. I literally say to them, I can see you turning the corner of really understanding the baby. Because in that 6 weeks, you are supposed to really just you and baby. So that's why you need your village around you to do everything else, to cook for you, to clean for you, to do your shopping, to really look after you so you can really get to grips with your baby and read your baby.
You're listening to the Miscellanea Variety Show on Radio Northern Beaches, FM 88.7 and 90.3. And Suzanne has been talking to us about the importance of having support in the 4th trimester, which is the first 3 months of the baby's life, where mothers, first mothers, second mothers, doesn't matter how many times you've had birth, you need help because, let's face it, each baby is different. It's not always smooth sailing and you need help. So when you're in that situation, who can I call on that has that experience and that knowledge that can help me? Your mother or your mother-in-law or other people might have outdated
practices, and having the new information is always beneficial. So, Suzanne, over to you. Who can people turn to in the first 3 months of the baby's life?
Well, that's a fantastic question. What I'd like to bring up is how much that we're actually lacking, probably. In Switzerland, the care is for 56 days following the birth of baby. Now, from a midwife coming to the home and looking after that mother, both physically and emotionally, and helping her with establishing breastfeeding.
And that's government funded, is it?
That is through the private, but even basic cover will actually cover that care, or the majority of that care. So the minimum you will get is 10 visits in that postnatal period of the first 6 weeks, or 56 days. But if you are a first-time mum, twins, caesarean section, you can have up to 16 visits.
Wow.
From the health insurance. They come in and it's all about mother and baby. So it might be emotional care. It might be really helping that mother really establish that breastfeeding. So if she's sore, or if it's not going well, if the baby's demand feeding and it's a normal newborn behaviour, but the first thing mum will think is, I haven't got enough milk when that baby is cluster feeding. Cluster feeding is a normal newborn behaviour. She has enough milk. So it's a lot of reassurance. So Switzerland is way ahead of the UK and Australia on that. But what we do have available, there are people like myself who have gone out and got the endorsed midwifery, which gives us a Medicare rebate as well. So for postnatal care, as a lactation consultant and an endorsed midwife, you can get postnatal care that is helped with a Medicare rebate, that I will come into your home and actually help you through that 4th trimester for 6 weeks post-birth.
Wow. How do people access that? I've never heard of this before.
There are other people that do it out of area. When I first started up Northern Beaches Midwifery, I was doing antenatal and postnatal care, and I still do. I look after women from the early stages of their pregnancy through to 6 weeks postnatal, and that is absolutely continuity of care. And they deliver at the hospital, and as soon as they're home, I pick them up again and help them through that 4th trimester. Now, from there, that continuity of care is unbelievable. That is, you've got such a good relationship with that mum that to get them through the 6 weeks, you've actually really done the journey through the pregnancy as well. So you've got to grips with who they are. Now, some women will just ask for postnatal care, and I'm just looking after them postnatally. So I've met them a couple of times prior to. We've gone through hand expressing, so we have that colostrum ready for baby for the cluster feeding, or if baby gets jaundice, and we've gone through the first 24 to 48 hours that they might be in hospital on what is normal newborn behaviour.
So I can see that what you do is actually educate the mother on the first, week. They're not going into it blind.
They certainly are.
And
going
so
into it blind.
You're preparing them for that. So when they come home, and I guess demystifying it and making it sort of normalising some of these things. So if and when it happens, then they're not surprised. They go, oh yeah, Suzanne told me about that.
Absolutely.
It's normal. I don't have to worry about it. Because this is when you get all the conflicting information, and one nurse tells you, or your mum tells you something different, and you're just so confused at that point. So if you've got an anchor person that basically has the right information for you, you've built that relationship, so it's a person that you trust. So they're your go-to. So when other people talk to you about, the baby and yourself and all of that, you can nod your head gracefully and say, yes, thank you. And then you can just fall back on what you tell them, Suzanne, because they've trusted you. And you, getting your information from one source removes all that overwhelming, conflicting information, which I think I would have loved to have that, because that's what was doing my head in at that time. And after 6 weeks or 8 weeks, when I knew what to do, I can just say thank you to people and then, do my own thing.
Absolutely. And The beauty of continuity of care is when you see that lady, so you might go in 3-4 times in the first week, because it's quite intensive to start off with because they really are struggling. This is a new human being. What am I doing? And it's so confusing what they do, but we're always starting from where we left off. We're not starting from the beginning of the story. We're always starting from where we left off. And what I say will be the same every time I come in. Now, a lot of midwives will say the same thing, but it might be slightly differently. But a lot of lactation consultants, the majority of lactation consultants, because it is a international course, we're all saying the same thing, hopefully. So we're all talking about the same thing. So that is the beauty also of having one, a lactation consultant, but secondly, the continuity of care. In that time also, we do debrief as well about the birth and how she feels. And as a midwife and an endorsed midwife, you understand. I still work casually on birthing units, so I've still got my finger on the pulse there.
What I also see as a benefit with having a person that comes to you in the first 3 months, isn't it?
What Medicare will allow, it's actually 6 weeks plus 6 days after the birth of baby.
Oh, right, okay.
It's quite specific, but that is the most challenging time.
But having someone there keeping an eye on me that is trained might be able to identify any postnatal depression behaviour that might happen.
Beyond true.
Your family might not be able to pick it up, but I think a trained person will be looking for the right signs, asking the right questions, and being able to identify some kind of postnatal problems and be able to get the right care for that person. Is that right?
You are absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head, but sometimes the husbands do pick it up. It's just that how are they going to broach it? How are they going to do it? And I've had calls from the husbands to say, I am worried about my partner, my wife, and giving me the rundown so I can go in and start to talk to that woman and say, look, this is what I've been noticing, or how are you feeling? Let's just monitor this. And I've actually written to GPs and said, I am concerned about this lady. So when you do your 6 weeks check, perhaps we need to raise this concern about the birth. And we're all on her side. You know, having that extra support when I've finished, as I said before, I would then say, would you like some extra support when I've finished? And then I can refer to mums for mums. So even when I've finished, perhaps their mum might be in another country.
Yeah.
Too far away, not have their mum. I have got ladies who they haven't got their mum. And I think,
or they don't get on with their mum. You know, there's a variety of reasons why they don't have the support. The big question is, or the big thing is knowing that there is support. See, a lot of the time is people just aren't aware that there is support, not only in this area, but in other areas as well. So I guess that's what I'm doing with this show is
you're raising
awareness that help is always there. So Suzanne, to that end, where can people find you?
I have a website which is Northern Beaches Midwifery, but if you'd put on Northern Beaches Lactation Consultant, Postnatal Care, Northern Beaches.
Is there a lot of midwives that do that postnatal service that you do?
As far as I am aware, the endorsed midwives on the Northern Beaches, 2 of them, 3 or 4, actually do home births, so they add in their postnatal care to that. There is another endorsed midwife who is working with an obstetrician, but I am the one that does the home visits, regular postnatal care that really supports mums in that 6 weeks post-birth and gets them up and running.
So you help in that first 6 weeks because it's endorsed, which means that you get Medicare funded.
Correct.
But what if I'm someone that the problems with my child is happening at 8 weeks or 12 weeks on? Can they still call you?
They certainly can. They can certainly call me.
You know, like I'd have to privately pay for that. I
That's
don't get the Medicare, but I don't care. I need help.
Absolutely. So we're very fortunate on the Northern Beaches.
Yeah.
Then Yes, there is myself, who's a lactation consultant, and there's probably about 5 or 6 others of lactation consultants. After that, if I can say that 7-week mark, where there is lactation consultants, but again, yes, absolutely. Then if you're having those struggles, then reach out.
Well, it's great to know that there's always help at a phone call away, Suzanne. It's so lovely to know that mums in general have the help that they need, so they are not struggling in isolation at home. So thank you so much for the service that you do. And we've been talking to Suzanne John from Northern Beaches Midwifery, so thank you so much, Suzanne.
Thank you, and thank you, Maria, for doing your effort on raising awareness.
Thanks.
You are listening to the Miscellanea Variety Show with Maria Mai on Radio Northern Beaches.
If you'd like to catch up with Maria's full shows, music and all, you can go to hearthis.at or you can listen live on rnb.org.au.
Australia, the lucky country. We've got meat pies. We've got the world's best beer. But most importantly, top of the list, we've got Radio Northern Beaches 88.7, 90.3. Now hitting the entire world on www.rnb.org.au.